Hey folks, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over all of the rest of the fence that we put up here at the farm under the NRCS grant for the rotational grazing fencing that we put in over the last couple months. Now I really didn't get any like time lapse or actual footage of putting in the rest of the stuff because for one, we were really busy trying to get it all in by the deadline. And in addition to that, it's basically just a copy and paste of everything else you've seen for putting in fence anywhere else on the farm. So I don't think it would have been too interesting to have to watch through all of it being put in. Now, I thought about kind of showing it in the order that we did it, but we ended up kind of jumping around in different areas because we had a set amount that we had to have done. So we started with the easiest stuff to put in and then started going to the harder and harder stuff as we went along. We did end up getting more done than we had to have done, which was really good because we still got paid for the extra that we did. But I think it's going to be a whole lot harder to follow if we do it in that order. So we are here all the way at the back of the farm. There's the mountain up there. We got the back pasture down there. I'm definitely not shooting things out of order. And that field back there, it is not mowed. You have not seen that being mowed yet. So, but we're right all the way here in the back. I'm going to put a map up on the screen here so you guys can kind of follow along where we're at. The fences that are done, and I'm not sure, we're gonna do some sort of color code. I'll show that here as well. So starting back here, I think you can that's the water trough all the way here at the back of the farm. Now back in the woods, somewhere's back in there, that is where the exclusion fence is that we were working on putting in the end of last year. I think it was like October-ish, something around in there. That is not done yet, but we didn't have to have that one done because all we had to do is the rotational fence, not the exclusion fence. So what we've done is we've crossed across the water back here, and then this fence goes all the way back into the woods, and then that ties into where the exclusion fence goes that way through the woods. We've got a gate down there so we can access going in there, and then this fence comes all the way up to here, and this is the MVP right-of-way, the Mountain Valley Pipeline. So this is a 42-inch pipeline. It's not done yet, although it's, as of recent news, changes in the budget and all that sort of stuff, U.S. government stuff, this may actually be getting finished off. Now, in this section, the pipe is in the ground. It's buried. Obviously, it's been reseeded back over. This is beautiful grass in here. I would love to get into here and do some baling, but we aren't allowed to get on this yet until MVP is totally finished, which is kind of annoying, but that's just the way it is. And then we've got our fence that comes all the way along this side of the right-of-way. Now this one had not been here before. This is another one that we put in. Now MVP actually did put in the fence on the other side. That is a barbed wire fence. That was put in 5 or 6 years ago when they were initially tearing into this area. So we now have a fence on both sides of the right-of-way, which means that as soon as we finish the exclusion fence in the back, for the first time in like 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever, we'll be able to run cattle in this back area, which we hadn't been able to do before because we didn't have this fence going along this side to keep the cattle from getting into the right-of-way. Now, we've got another gate down there, and there's a gate across the right-of-way on the other side so we can cross here. And then where we generally come across is over the hill that-a-way, and then there's a gate on this side and that side down there as well. And then this fence goes all the way to the property line along the right-of-way over here. All right, so we've moved towards the front of the farm a little bit. We were back over in that direction. We've come down the farm road, and we're now kind of at the one of the ends of the middle woods, which are right over here behind me. So this area is where it starts getting a little bit harder to follow what we've been doing for the fence. But this fence right through here comes down around, and this ties in down to the fence that goes around the middle woods. This comes down into the lower corner there where we've got the gate down there. Now you'll notice that this is all 3 strands. In order to be covered under the grant, we only had to have 3 strands put up on here. And it's actually the same reimbursement rate whether we do 3 strands or the 6 strands like I've got around the middle woods. Now eventually we will be adding probably the other 3 onto the rest of these lines. But in the interest of time, we've just done the 3 just to get it done and get it checked off, signed off that we've done it. Now, if we spin around down here, this is the little bit of the property that juts off to the side here. And then we got a fence that runs all the way down to the hayfield that I was in doing some haying in there last year. And we'll be in there again this year as well. And this runs all the way down through there and kind of divides that section off. Hopefully I will be running some cattle over in this field later on this year. This is part that I have to run in there. We've got guys that are running cattle in the rest of it. And I also, if I get cattle, can run it in the back of the farm as well. Then they kind of have this middle section in here to use for their beef cattle that they have. Now, as I think you can see, we got a couple of gates down around in here so that we can, you know, kind of get wherever it is that we need to do. We've got the another cattle water. I'm not sure if I'm pointing in the right direction, but it's somewhere up around in there. And there's another gate over by that. And then if we come down a little bit closer towards the pond, quotes around that, it's more like a large mud puddle, but if we come down here a little closer to the pond, then you can see this fence that comes all the way down along our road going down through there, and then that ties all the way down around to well, this road continues all the way down to like past the farmhouse, the log farmhouse and that sort of stuff. Now coming back over to this little section that's kind of sticks off to the side, we also ran a fence line across here, and that separates this upper more pasture-y kind of area. Needs a lot of work, but we're moving in that direction. The pasture area from the more wooded area down here towards the bottom. And then I think you can maybe kind of see a little bit of the hayfield and the baler all the way down there at the bottom. Now, if we head down the hill just a little bit further, then we get down to here. And at this point, we've got a fence that goes the opposite direction, and it divides off kind of the lower part of this field, which I think, if I remember right, we've got the cemetery just on this side of the fence over that way, and then on this side is more just kind of open pasture up around in there. We got a little bit of kind of a woods area in here, silvo pasture, where you've got the trees and you've got the grass kind of growing up and around in there. This needs some more work in here. We've got a bunch more autumn olive that needs to be cleaned out or cleaned back out of there. And then what we'll probably ultimately have to do is, when the little ones start coming back up again, spray those down to try and get the worst of it. And then maybe get, you know, a couple dozen goats to run around in the different pastures to do kind of the continual brush management, that kind of upkeep, keeping that stuff chewed back once it gets down to a manageable level. All right, so my dad's actually down there doing a little bit of work while I'm up here goofing off. But this is the fence that kind of comes right up here by the cemetery, and then this goes down over the hill and ties into the fence that goes along the laneway that I was talking about earlier that continues on down to by the farmhouse. Now this stick up here was from when we were trying to get our brace posts lined up, because going over the hill you can't see from end to end, so we stuck that on there, put a little flagging on the top so you can see from one end or the other where the brace post is up here, so we could get them more or less lined up. Obviously got another gate up here near the trough, so we can kind of cross between these two pastures up here. And I think at this point we'll head on over the hill and kind of show some of the stuff down there. So there's some sort of vehicle up there near the road, up by the high tunnel that's up there. I'm not sure who that is and what they're doing up there, but it looks like they're just kind of sitting there. I wonder if it's someone with the road crew. But anyways, that's not what we're down here to look at. We're down here to look at the fence. So we're down at the bottom. This is the fence that comes down through here. We got a gate at the bottom so that we can cross between here, or more than likely it'll probably get used more for moving cattle from one pasture to the other, because that's the whole point of doing this, is we can do the rotational grazing, and you can more intensively graze down one pasture. That way they're eating everything and not just the stuff that they really like, and leaving the stuff that, you know, they may not like quite as well. They're eating everything down, and then that helps to keep other stuff down as well, like brambles and stuff, because they're, you know, tromping around on all that stuff more. There's more animal units per acre. But anyways, so we got that. Then we got let's see, where is it? Another gate over there, and that connects over to the laneway that I've been talking about so many times already, that goes down to the farmhouse that you can kind of see down around in there. Then on the other side, looky there, another gate. We got so many gates around here, but you know, if you're putting in new fence, you might as well put in the gates so that you can get where you want to go when you want to go there, and you aren't having to drive, you know, half a mile up around the fence to get into a different pasture. So we got this gate. Again, this connects down into the laneway, and then over here, this is where we've got the fence line that I talked about in the Middle Woods fence video, which is let's see, I think it's round in there. That comes down. That's where we've got that tri-corner spot, where we got 3 fences coming into one corner post. And then on here we've got a paddock area, and this is so that we can use one water to access 3 different fields. So it's split in half, and so that way that side of this fence, well, and this fence as well, that whole area can access that side of the water. Then this side of the water can either be accessed, technically this is sort of a laneway here, but there's several acres of land that's included in here, so this will get grazed down from time to time. We'll throw the cattle in here, although they won't be in here most of the time, because otherwise then, you know, you've got cattle where you're trying to drive. It's easier if they're in the pastures, then you can keep your laneway open. You don't have to go through 200 gates to get from down there to up there. But if they're in the laneway, this gate down here can be open, and they can access this side of the water. Then during the winter, when that's not being used as a hay field down there, that gate can be opened up, this gate can be shut, and they can be grazing in that area and access this side of the water. So you kind of can get to 3 different fields with one water by having a paddock area around where your water is at on kind of one side of that water. Now up here, a little bit further beyond where this paddock is, this is the fence line that comes all the way down from up near the pond, and this comes down around in here, up and over the hill. This is pretty steep around in here. We weren't gonna even attempt to try putting posts down in here, and we didn't want to put them at the bottom either, because this may get widened out. In fact, it's almost definitely going to get widened out a little bit. It's not very wide. It's a little tough getting stuff through here. And it's also sloped in the wrong direction, so that if you were to start sliding, you're going to go that way and then whoosh, right over the bank. So this area needs some work. So we didn't want to get the fence post too close to the edge where we're going to be kind of cutting back into here at some point. I don't know when that's going to be. That's a very future project. Now, we also did a little bit of fence over on this side of the creek as well. We've got this hayfield over here. This is all fenced off, and so yeah, this goes all the way around there. It cuts inside of the barn, so the barn is outside of the hayfield. There may be some other stuff going in around here near the barn eventually. Don't really know yet, but the fence goes way around that. Then we've also got fence going all the way up along the other side of the driveway, and then that connects up to an old existing fence that went around that high tunnel up around in there. So with the way this is done, that means that the cattle, which are somewhere around over in there, they can be kept over here, kept out of the laneway. If this fence was electric, which it hasn't been electrified yet, what we could do is leave these gates along the laneway open, and you could drive all the way from the road all the way down around through here without having to go through any gates. This hasn't been set up yet. That actually isn't part of the requirements. I don't know why, but it wasn't a requirement to have everything fully hooked up and electrified to get your check mark, to get everything signed off with this. So we haven't run the wires under the gates on all of this yet. I can't imagine why. We've only got like 2 gates around the whole farm, but those haven't been all done yet. So this isn't actually electric, and that's been a little bit of a problem with keeping the calves in. They're small enough that they will just kind of go right through the wires. They don't pay much attention to that. So we've been leaving some of these gates shut to help try keeping any of those from getting up onto the road, or getting down in the creek where they really aren't supposed to be, or into my garden or anything like that. But anywho, so we've got our lane fences, then we've got a couple cross fences that go across to divide these pastures up as well. We've got one up around in there. There's a water somewhere. Let's see, where is it? Can I point to it? Somewhere over in that area there's a water, so we got a cross fence going across there to divide this lower area and the upper area. And then obviously this is the hay field, but there is another water. It's on the other side of the barn. You can't see it. So that can be accessed from this hay field again, so that during the winter when this isn't being used for hay, you're grazing cattle out there, they can access that water from this field without having to come out into the laneway. And then there's a really junky area up around in there. That needs a whole bunch of work, and that eventually is going to be a little pasture up in there as well. That has not been fully fenced out from the laneway yet, so that really isn't used for the time being. That's going to be really tricky getting in the fence along the lane because it drops off really sharp, so it's a little tricky getting to there to put the fence post in. And it's also very, very rocky. So that's why that part never got done. We went for a lot of the other areas that were gonna be easier before we were gonna ever try attempting to do that within our allotted time period, and obviously it didn't get done. But eventually, someday, there's gonna be fence going on both sides of the lane all the way up to the road. This little dude's doing his best to get run over, getting right in the middle of the little farm road here. We got enough sticks and stuff that are laying across here. He almost got it. Almost. No, don't head towards the truck. Wrong way. Come on. Get out of here. Move it. No, don't go under there. Come on. Keep moving. Let's go. Come on. There we go. All right. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. And then we're gonna jump back over here. This is down near the hayfield, which again, this is not cut yet. We've got another little paddock area here so that we can access one water from 3 different locations. It can be accessed from this wooded area, it can be accessed from the lower pasture, or again, during the winter, when this is not being used as a hayfield, that same water could be accessed from here if there's cattle grazing in it. Alrighty folks, well, I think I covered all the fences, I think. If not, they're still going to be showing up on the map here as being done, even if I didn't exactly point to them as being done. So obviously this is a little bit different than what I normally do, but I kind of wanted to show you what all we got done and where all the fences are. And yeah, that's what the last month and a half or so has been putting up lots and lots and lots of fence, amongst other things too. I've been working on other things too, but that's been the majority of what's been going on. So like I said, it's just kind of a matter of getting all of them connected together now and figuring out how, you know, which sections are going to be independently controlled from others as far as having it charged with electricity and stuff like that, and where shutoffs are going and all that kind of good stuff. So still have to do that sort of stuff, but the hardest part of it, of getting the fence up and in place, that's more or less done. We still have exclusion fence to put up, which that's stuff, like I said, all the way at the back, the backwoods, and then some more going kind of around the creek to keep cattle out of there, but that has a later date that it has to be done by. So we're I'm taking a break to work on some other projects here, get some of that stuff going before we go back to exclusion fences. Now, I just kind of realized as I was getting ready to finish this video off, there is a fence that I didn't talk about, which goes all the way along here, and it separates this hay field from kind of that wooded area up through there. Originally, it went up more along the older fence line, or woods line rather, up there, but I decided to bring it down around this little grove of trees down through there. That's a whole bunch of black walnuts, and I decided, you know, I'll just leave them there. It doesn't make any sense to include those into the hay field. And I figured that seeing as those were able to grow, they probably hadn't been getting on there to try taking any hay off anyway, so, you know, just no point in including that in this field. Just leave it in there, let some grass grow up in there, and it'll give the cattle or whatever's in there something to kind of munch on in that upper area. So that fence right through there, that one's done as well. But anywho, I think now that we got that one, I think I've covered all the fences. Maybe, hopefully. But, you know, and if not, that's just the way it is, I guess. So that is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting, not too terribly boring. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.